Hello, this is Coach from DFS Coach Talk. Real quickly, before you watch the podcast, I want to mention a couple quick things. We really appreciate you tuning in. We have a special offering here at DFS Coach Talk that is different than any other DFS provider in the industry, and that's why we're the fastest growing. We don't use optimizers. We build everything by hand. We have a group of pros that put in hours and hours every day preparing winning lineups for you in the NBA, NFL, PGA, and Major League Baseball. And we're also doing bonus coverage right now of KBO until sports come back. So join now, get a free month this whole month. The memberships don't start until July 30th. So enjoy that, make some money, build some bankroll, and definitely engage with us on all social media. We're DFS Coach Talk everywhere, and we'd love to engage with you and get you involved. So enjoy the podcast, and let's take down some money and just crush it.
Summer is here, and sports are finally back, which can only mean one thing. It's time to kick back, relax, and make some cash. Everyone has to start somewhere, which is why you want to get off on the right foot by choosing an established book like MyBookie.ag. And with all the major sports seasons just around the corner, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. Dynamic betting lines and a simple-to-use platform make the process easier than it's ever been. Create your account in just a few easy steps, deposit, and begin placing your bets. Sign up now using promo code COACHTALK to get your deposit matched halfway, all the way up to $1,000, plus $25 extra free play. That's promo code COACHTALK. Use it to score yourself an extra piece of the pie. With MyBookie, you bet, you win, and most importantly, when you win, you get paid.
Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. It is Wednesday, July 8th, 2020. I'm Peter Hampton, joined by Sugar Shane Caldwell, and we're back for another KBO podcast here tonight. I did the PGA podcast earlier today with Coach. Check that out. If you haven't seen it yet on YouTube or anywhere else podcasts are found, you can listen to it, iTunes, Spotify, etc. But it's KBO time, and Shane, I know you had a big night last night with Coach. How are you feeling tonight?
Feeling pretty good tonight. I'd say this slate is a little bit tricky, but with our advanced research we're going to do, I think we can actually find an edge because there's not a lot of chalky, real obvious plays with this slate. And last night was fun. I rated it a four-star slate. We rated 4 out of 5 stars. It's pretty solid. And we ended up with DraftKings, the lineup I built directly from our player pool, was a top 3% winner. And my FanDuel was also scored 160 points, was also a top 3% winner there. So definitely did good there. And a couple of the guys I talked about, Hyung So Kim from LG? LG. He really went off. I recommended him on the podcast. 2 home runs. Our guy Jung Ho Lee, who we all really like to play, he's obviously good from Kiwoom. He hit a home run. We had Dan Straley in there, so we had a lot of good picks. But Kim was very low owned, so that put us a huge advantage of him getting 2 home runs and being low owned. So that was the research paid off last night. So it was a great slate, and we're ready to roll into another one because we've been on fire lately. We're really locked into the players and the teams and the trends and everything here, so we're ready to go.
Yeah, that's right. And you all heard about that membership option here at the beginning of the podcast. And that's what we do for our members is we give a player pool on DraftKings and then a full FanDuel lineup. So that's been going really well for us. We're having a great time with our members. We invite you to join us. I want to thank our sponsors real quickly. MyBookie.ag. We've got a great offer for members and visitors alike. On our website, you're going to hear all about that in the middle of the show. And then we want to thank TVG. That's where the world watches and wagers on horse racing. And if you go to our website, dfscoachtalk.com, down at the bottom, you can click on a button, go to TVG, and get a $300 risk-free bet as a new sign-up. So tremendous offer, risk-free $300 bet. So check that out. All right, Shane, let's get into this 5-game slate. as usual, 10 teams in the KBO, 5 games a night, and looking good on weather here. So we can all breathe a sigh of relief together and just break down the matchups and expect that they're going to play full games. So let's start with KT and Kia. If you go to mybookie.ag, you can see the lines there. Kia is the home favorite, -178, over under here at 9.5, right in the middle of the slate in terms of an over under. And we were chatting before the podcast about Drew Gagnon, the Kia pitcher. He's going to be a key participant in the KBO contest tonight from a DFS perspective. So let's just start right there. What do you think about Drew Gagnon taking on the KT Wiz tonight?
Well, I just want to say I think Drew Gagnon could probably be the highest owned on FanDuel and DraftKings. He is a really solid pitcher, and his price is reasonably, because some of these guys are very expensive. He's 8,100 on DraftKings, 25 on FanDuel. My personal opinion on Gagnon, even though most people feel like he's the number one pitcher in the slate based on price here, I'm not as high on him because I feel like this KT Wiz lineup is really top to bottom. The KT Wiz didn't have quite as good a game last night, but I feel like they're good enough, even against a good pitcher, that they can score some runs on there and cause a little bit of damage. Now, I don't think he's going to get blown up or anything. I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring game, but I think that basically KT Wiz would score just enough. I know Gagnon doesn't really give up home runs, but they just have a lot of solid hitters from top to bottom, is my point. So I feel like they will match up and score enough runs just to hurt his value a little bit. Okay. And then I'm not as high on Gagnon because I think he's going to get roughed up a little bit by KT Wiz, but I'm also not looking to play a lot of the KT Wiz guys because I kind of respect Gagnon and he's solid. So this is one of those situations they kind of cancel each other out, because I don't feel like either side, the KT Wiz bats or Gagnon's pitching, is going to give you the high upside you need to be able to take down a tournament or be able to cash. So that's just my opinion. I know there's a lot of variance, and it's okay because I don't think a lot of people are going to agree with me on that opinion, including yourself, which is absolutely fine. But it's just something to consider that when you think Gagnon is good because of the price, KT Wiz are they're a really hot lineup from top to bottom right now, and they are a force to be reckoned with, in my opinion. So that's kind of where I'm at for that side of the,
let me jump in with my perspective there. He was excellent against KT earlier this season. 7 innings, no earned runs, only 3 hits, 8 strikeouts. The one difference there is Baek-ho Kang didn't play that game, so he's in the lineup. That's a big difference. I'll give you that. But 57 strikeouts this year in only 57 1/3, only 1 home run all season. So righties are only hitting .202 against him, and KT has a lot of righties. So for me, I am going to have a lot of exposure to Gagnon. I may get, since I build multiple lineups, I may build one where I get a lefty or 2 out of that lineup. I do like Young-ho Joe, the way he's playing at the top of the order. He's had 4 straight games of at least 10 DraftKings points. He's only 2,500 as an outfielder. So in some lineups where I don't play Gagnon, I may get some exposure to him. How about the other matchup in this game? I think we're more aligned there. You like some of these Kia bats against Byung-wook Jo, who is really a bullpen guy. He's made 2 starts, ERA over 4. What are your thoughts on these Kia bats against him?
Yeah, I was telling you earlier that I resurrected Preston Tucker because he was kind of dead to me for a couple weeks because he was slumping. His price didn't go down at all because they don't really adjust the prices in KBO. So I was off him for a while, but obviously he's had a couple big games in a row. So I really like Preston Tucker. I mean, his split's going against a righty. He's a lefty going against a righty. He's usually batting second. He's got power. He bats for high average. So really like Tucker as a guy that's worth paying up for. He's 5,800 on DraftKings, $16 on FanDuel. So I will plug in Tucker tonight. I got to bring him back to life. And then the guy that bats typically third right after him, Hyung-woo Cha, is also a really good option. And I believe he is still first base and outfield eligible on DraftKings. Yes. So that gives you flexibility. And he's a repriced at 4,900 on DraftKings and $13 on FanDuel. So those two, I feel like, are really good guys to lock into your lineup. You can also take a look at the cleanup hitter Ji-Wan Na, because he's only 3,600 on DraftKings or $9 on FanDuel. And even Min Sang Yu, assuming he still bats fifth here, is first baseman 3,100 on DK or $7 on FanDuel. So he's another guy that's a lefty going up against a righty who has nice splits there as well. So action going on right at the top of the lineup here for Kia. But yeah, I like at least for sure Tucker and Cha out of this matchup here against this pitcher, and being that those guys are pretty hot right now.
Yeah, those are the four guys that I'm looking at with Kia. So I'll definitely get a lot of exposure to H. Cha, who's cheaper than Tucker, a little bit of exposure to Tucker, and then also I'll build a couple stacks where I get 3 or 4 deep and include Ji-Wan Na and MU. So, all right, let's move to game 2. LG is playing against Doosan. Doosan will bat second as the home team. They are the minus 169 favorites on mybookie.ag. Another over-under here of 9.5. 2 respected pitchers going at it. Tyler Wilson for LG with an ERA of 4.47, and then Alcantara for Doosan, 7-1 with a 3.46, and he's got 61 strikeouts on the season. And I think one of the biggest turning points on this slate is how Alcantara does against the power lefties of LG. H. Kim hit those 2 home runs yesterday, as you mentioned. Ramos is heating up. Who do you think is going to win that battle tonight?
Well, I'm going to be in the Alcantara boat here. Alcantara has held up pretty good against lefties. He's pretty similar against lefties and righties, and he does give up some home runs, but for the most part, he's been shutting teams down. He's been going deep into games against solid teams. He has pretty good strikeout upside. He typically, can go all the way up to like 110 pitchers or more. So I feel like he's in a good position to get the win here. I like Doosan to score a little bit against Tyler Wilson. I like him to get the win and the quality start, and hopefully that 6 to 8 strikeouts that you're looking for. Even though LG's decent, I feel like I think he can still shut them down. But I definitely understand the concern here for what you're referring to. Alcantara is not really that cheap, 9,200 on DraftKings and $28 on FanDuel. But I do like Alcantara tonight, and I'm a little more contrarian that I like Alcantara more than Drew Gagnon, because you could make an argument that Gagnon's a better play, being that he's a lot cheaper. But that's kind of the way I'm looking at it for this matchup here.
Yeah, I lean Gagnon over Alcantara. I'm concerned about the power possibilities for LG. H. Kim has 4 straight multi-hit games, and in those 4 games, he has a total of 4 home runs. So he's super hot. Ramos is 5 for his last 8 with a home run and 2 walks. So in his last 10 plate appearances, he's gotten on base 7 times, and he's under 5,000 because of this matchup. H. Kim's price is down too, 4,700 and 4,800. So nice prices there. I mean, Alcantara certainly could win this battle. He's probably my 3rd favorite pitcher on the slate on DraftKings. So I'll have some exposure to him. But if I had to pick one, I think I will pick these LG bats. They ran out 6 lefties to start the lineup yesterday and gave the Doosan starter a lot of trouble. They even added Ho-Yoon Kim in there. He hit a home run. He's a guy we've been on here in the last couple weeks. So it's just a tough collection of lefties. We talk about it all the time. When LG goes up against a righty, you get a little bit more excited to get some exposure to LG. Now on the flip side, Tyler Wilson, high-priced pitcher, ERA of 4.47. Last 2 starts, his WHIP has been almost 2. So he hasn't been so sharp. And we got a lot of lefties for Doosan that we like to play. Lefties are only batting 315 against Wilson, but they only have 1 home run. So I'm not quite as excited about the Doosan lefties as I normally would be. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay still with Fernandez and JLO. I'm not super high on him. Even Ji-Hwan Cha, the guy that's usually pretty cheap, but on DraftKings he's still only 3,400. I do still like Kyung Min Her if he continues to bat lead off there. He's 3,700 on DraftKings and $10 on FanDuel. And then even Kung Woo Park, if he's batting 3rd, He's pretty solid as well. Even against righties, he's still pretty solid, even though he's a right-handed bat here. So I think that I like Doosan to actually score quite a bit in this, even though this is a low over/under and kind of a pitcher's duel. I think Doosan could, even though they're traditionally not that great at home, I think they're still going to have a decent scoring output here against Wilson, and I think they'll get to the bullpen, maybe a little bit quicker tonight. And that's kind of how I see this. And like I said, I feel like LG, the bats, as you're referring to, they're going to be a little bit higher owned, even though Alcantara is a tough matchup, just because of the recency bias of what they did last night. But, they were going against a young, inexperienced pitcher with, that's not as good last night. And Alcantara is completely different scenario here. So, so I'm trying to take advantage of that recency bias. If people want to start playing Hyun Soo Kim, it kind of the opposite way. I took advantage of Hyun Soo Kim last night, where people weren't really on him, got him a lower ownership. I feel like if he's going to be higher ownership, and if he doesn't end up having a good game, that's an advantage there. But yeah, there's definitely a certain amount of risk involved there with that, though.
Gotcha. So on back to Doosan for me, I'm looking at the cheaper lefties a little bit here tonight. J-E-O at 4,200 on DraftKings, and Ju Hwan Cha, you mentioned 3,400. He went 4 for 5 last night with 3 knocked in.
I saw that.
So that was terrific. I had a lot of exposure to him, and I've been playing those righties a bunch, but I'm going to be off K-Hur and K-Park tonight with Tyler Wilson being strong against righties. So, all right, let's move to Game 3. Lotte traveling to Hanwha. They are the minus 200 favorites on mybookie.ag, and this is another 9.5 over/under game. And I'm liking the bats in both sides here. Not liking the pitchers as much. I know there's one pitcher here that you might have some exposure to. So why don't you share that with our listeners and our viewers?
Yeah, so I like the Hanwha pitcher here, Bum Soo Kim. He's 2-4, but not always getting that much run support. 3.6 ERA. He's got some pretty solid statistics. The issue that he has is he has a really high walk rate, like over 15%. But he's striking out over 20%. So he does have some strikeout upside. I really like his price on DraftKings at $5,500. I do feel like Hanwha can get the upset in this matchup. Lotte is not really, they're okay, but they're not one of the best teams in this league. And I think that Hanwha can get to the pitcher Adrian Sampson for Lotte and get into their bullpen pretty quick there. So I kind of like Hanwha to win this game. And I like that pitcher to, if he can get it, 5 or 6 solid innings, a few strikeouts, and maybe get a win at $5,500. He doesn't really have to score that much. If he gets, $15 on DraftKings, he's going to hit value, and you're going to be able to load up on a lot of big bats because of that $5,500 price. So that's why I like him on GPP for DraftKings, especially. He's $24 on FanDuel, so you could take a shot there too if you wanted to.
Yeah, that's a real interesting GPP play. If I make 10 lineups, I might put him in one, and here's why. His last 2 outings, he had 22 points against Samsung and 16.7 against Doosan on DraftKings. And this is a guy who's been in the bullpen for most of the season. He's only made 3 starts. And so, not a huge sample size, but really strong performances those last 2 in terms of points per dollar, like you said. So I do think he's worth considering. But I also like these Lotte bats. I mean, I know that these righties can certainly get him. Lotte's full of strong right-handed bats. Righties hit 271 against him, 3 home runs. So you certainly got to consider JG on. And then Daiho Lee, 4,500 and 4,100 respectively on DraftKings. And last night they combined to go 5 for 10 with 2 homers. So I'm going to build a couple lineups with that mini stack.
But again, this is my contrarian opinion here. Last night they're going against Softhold, which he's horrible. So they completely raked against Softhold. So people are going to be on him now, saying, "Oh, this young, experienced pitcher. Let's take those guys, John and Daiho Lee." Well, they already missed out on the opportunity to play him last night against Softhold. Because they were definitely, those guys were taking down tournaments, and the big tournaments they had those huge ceiling games. So I feel like overall Lotte is not that great of a team. Yeah, those guys are talented. They do flash, but they're very inconsistent. So I feel like this pitcher can actually limit them tonight. If he can, if he can get maybe only like 3 or 4 walks instead, he gets a lot of walks, but
right.
he's just got to limit them if he can get some strikeouts to limit that. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. Again, completely contrarian, but sometimes in DFS, you have kind of when they zig, you zag, that type of thing. So that's kind of where I'm at with this slate, apparently.
Right. All right. Well, let's look at the other matchup here. I'm going to mention a couple lefties for Hanwha. Young Q Lee is questionable at the top of the lineup with a thigh injury. He's 3,600. And the reason I want to look at a couple of these lefties is because Sampson is not good in that category. Lefties are hitting 378 against him this season. So this is one of those rare scenarios where you actually might want to consider building a little mini stack of Hanwha guys. So we got to check the lineup with Y Lee there to see if he's playing. And we will do that for our members. We're in Discord every day that there's KBO right before lock to check the lineups and give pivots to our members. So that'll be one of the key things we're looking at about 5 a.m. Eastern time. And then the second hitter, Yunwan Jung, 3,900, second base, third base eligible on DraftKings. He's a nice option against a righty. And then Ju Suk Ha is back in the lineup, shortstop, 4,200, not a power guy, hasn't gone deep this year, but he's batting 326, 15 for 46. So it's a little bit pricey for a guy that hasn't gone deep. But again, if you want to build a unique stack with a couple Hanwha lefties, that's one way to do it. You could also go down to Jin Ho Jung. He's only 2,200. Again, not a power guy, but he just finished up a recent 5-game hit streak. So not bad for a guy that's 2,200. What are your thoughts there? Any of those guys interest you?
Yeah, I mean, I really like, we got to look at this lineup. Like you said, if Young Kyo Lee leads off, he's been hitting pretty good average, and he gets on base, and he gets a lot of steals actually too. Yeah, I think he had like 3 or 4 games in a row where he had a stolen base.
Yep.
He had like 6 points on FanDuel for stolen base. So I do like the top 5. Like Yu Won Jo, that Jin Hyung Cha, we played him, even though he's a righty. I think he can still do pretty good against Samsung. And he's only $5 on FanDuel, 3,300 on DraftKings. So so really like the top 5 guys there, I like them. And you're right, we have to look and see what their lineup is, because there's a lot of moving parts in this lineup depending on the matchup. Hanwha just kind of like they tried to rebuild that team in the middle of the season basically, and they're rotating all these guys, and they're finding some guys that are actually pretty solid now. They're actually a competitive team now. So I do like playing a few of these guys because you can get them so cheap, especially with some of these guys you can get for $5, $6, $7, or even E1 Jung for $8 on FanDuel. If you need some value guys, throw them in there, because if you want to pay up elsewhere, if you're going to pay up at pitcher or whatever it may be. I think you have to look at Hanwha, even though it's a team we don't normally attack, because Samson hasn't been great, and Hanwha is trending up right now, and they're cheap. So
excellent. Well, speaking of value guys, I mentioned at the top of the show that we have an offer from mybookie.ag that we want to share from you. Tremendous value. So we'll take a quick second here so you can tune in and hear about that. All right, hope you all can take advantage of that offer. Again, just go to our website, dfscoachtalk.com, and click the link for MyBookie, and you can sign up and get that tremendous sign-up bonus and $25 free play. So we encourage you to do that.
And take the Hanwha Eagles tonight, as the underdogs. Put the money on them. That's my pick tonight.
All right, I like it. All right, game 4, the Dinos against SK. And the Dinos are minus 175 favorites on the road, 10.5 over under. And this is an interesting one too. SK actually got the Dinos yesterday, 3-2, and the Dinos are trotting out Sung Young Cha, a lefty with a ERA of 5.7. Okay, get this. He's given up 6 home runs this year in only 23 2/3 innings. He's only had 1 out of 4 quality starts. SK hit him around the first time. Lefties are hitting 306 against him. Righties are hitting 281. Could we also have a little mini stack here with SK? Is it possible to have a Hanwha mini stack and an SK mini stack on the same night.
That's how crazy the KBO is. Just say, when did we do that? But yeah, I found myself researching the most Hanwha and SK guys I have all year. I mean, I'm going through their entire roster pretty much. Obviously, on SK side, I mean, Jamie Romack is going to be highly owned because their stud power guy usually bats like third. Is Jiyoung Cha is out tonight. He's still injured. Yep. So that's their main power guy is Romack, and he bats good against lefties. He's really solid against lefties. He hits for power. SK's home park is a hitter's park. It's by far the best hitter's park on the slate, and he's up against a guy who gives up home runs, and he's really bad and doesn't do good against righties really. So I really like Jamie Romack. He's reasonable at 4,500 on DK and 13 on FanDuel. He's as much as a must play as I can find on this slate, and hopefully the ownership's a little bit lower. So if you're listening to this, don't play him because I want to play him. I'm just kidding. I'm hoping there's a little bit lower ownership coming up on him. And then the leadoff hitter, if he leads off there for SK, Hee-Hoon Cha is pretty cheap there. He's definitely got a little bit of pop there as well. He's $5 on FanDuel, 2,900 on DraftKings. You could take a look at him. The other guy, King Min Kim, another outfielder there. He's solid. He's 3,100 on DK, $7 on FanDuel. And then all the way down there in the 8 slot there, Coach always likes to point out that I like to play a lot of 8 slot guys. He's down there, Jun Woo Cha. He's a $2,600. Hasn't been on there as much, but he's been solid as well. So there's a lot of those value guys you can look at for SK. What do you think? Are you brave enough to play some of these SK guys here?
I am. You know me. I like to play GPPs. I'm going to build a couple SK stacks. Jun Woo Cha, as you mentioned, he'll be in there. 2,600 at second base. He's got 2 home runs, and he's batting .429 against lefties.
Yes.
So not too bad. I mean, he's going to be what, 5% owned at the max. So we like that.
He's not even on FanDuel. He's such an under the radar player. He's not even in the player pool on FanDuel. You can't play him on FanDuel.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned Ji-Hoon Cha at the top of the order. He's batting .462 against lefties, even though he is a lefty. So 12 for 26, decent sample size. And then back towards the middle of the order here, Yi Jiang, 2,800 on DraftKings as an outfielder. He's batting .304 against lefties. He went 2 for 3 against this lefty when they first met up. So there you have it. We're going to get some exposure to SK and roll the dice. Now, what about the other side in this matchup? Pinto is a righty who, speaking of walks, he loves to walk people, but he doesn't give up home runs. Only 1 all season in 61 innings. Yeah. So what about some Dinos bats tonight?
Yeah, I mean, you got to like these Dinos bats. Here's the weird thing. When I'm looking these guys up, I mean, Sung Bum Na is probably one of the best players in the league. But the weird thing about Sung Bum Na is he absolutely just rakes against – he's a left-handed batter, but he rakes against lefties. So he's going up against a righty who doesn't really give up home runs, doesn't give up that much power. So that's why, in my opinion, I'm not sure that it's worth paying up for Sung Bum Na. I don't know that he has the power upside, and he bats a lot better against lefties than he is in righties, like in this matchup here, even though Pinto is pretty much absolute garbage. So that's the only reason I was looking at there. And then Altier has been solid, but he's been a little bit of a mini slump right now. So that's my only concern with Altier. I like some of these value guys, though, on Dinos, like if he leads off Minwoo Park. He's actually not that cheap on DraftKings, 5,200, but I think he's worth paying up for. He's really good against a lefty going up against a righty, and he's $12 on FanDuel. So I like his value on FanDuel. And if you go down to the third baseman, Suk Min Park, he's a right-hander, but he's good against righties, and he is 4,600 on DK and $10 on FanDuel. I thought he's a pretty good value. The shortstop, Jin Hyuk No, is pretty solid, $4,000 DraftKings, $9 on FanDuel. So I'm looking at these kind of a couple of these little value guys as opposed to kind of the chalk going Sung Bum Na, Altier for the Dinos here. That's kind of the way I view this particular matchup. But what do you think? Do you like Sung Bum Na or Altier? Because I think they're going to be highly owned.
I don't really like Altier. He's much better against lefties.
Yep, that's what I saw.
I'm not gonna. I may play a non-one lineup, but probably not much. I don't like those righties as much because righties only hit 260 against Pinto with 0 home runs on the season. I mean, he really keeps the ball down.
Yeah.
The favorite guys of the ones you mentioned would be Minwoo Park at the top. He hasn't done much since he came back from injury, but maybe we time it here in a lineup or two. He can really string together some hits. And then Jin Hyuk No, I like to play him. 4,000. He had 2 hits yesterday. He's trending in the right direction. But again, I'm not really going to get much exposure at all to these Dino bats. I like the value for per dollar on DraftKings a lot more with some of these other hitters we've talked about tonight.
Which I find interesting because Pinto, and I have the same opinion you did on this without us even talking, but Pinto has been pretty bad, but he just doesn't give up that much upside. He's kind of like bad, but he's safe at the same time.
Yeah, it's
just enough to hold you down.
Yeah, he'll walk you, and it's like you may have a good game, but because you're getting on base, but maybe it's 2 walks and a single, and so you're not getting a massive upside game. So,
do you think H. Kwan is going to play for the Dinos? I know sometimes he's a decent player. I know he's a righty, but I don't know if he's actually going to play or not.
Let's see. Last I looked, he was slotted as a potential 9 hitter tonight.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to mess with him if he's down in the number 9 spot.
Yeah, we'll have to take a look just to make sure they're not going to move him up in the lineup. I don't see any reason they would, but sometimes they move him up in the lineup.
Yeah, he moves around. Yep.
Yeah, and he's cheap. So we'll look at that. We'll take a look at that lineup for the Dinos. But yeah, interesting that we like probably more SK guys against the Dinos. It's like one of the worst teams. Versus the best team, and we like the worst team tonight. So that tells you how crazy this slate is. It's kind of cool. What do you think? Is it going to be crazy enough, Andrew, where you're going to go with the 4-star?
I doubt it.
Rating
I highly doubt it, Shane. I really doubt it.
You're like a 2.5 star tonight.
Could be 2.5. But I do feel pretty good about the pitchers, so it'll probably be at least 3. And there are these 3 pitchers that I like, including one in the last game here. Eric Jokic, the southpaw, has been tremendous. He's at home tonight against Samsung. The big favorites, minus 294 on mybookie.ag. Over under only 8.5. Vegas expecting a bit of a pitcher's duel here. And the last time Jokic went up against Young Hyung Baek of Samsung on the other side, another lefty, it was a pitcher's duel. Jokic 6 innings, 1 earned run. Beck 6 innings, no earned runs against Kiwoom. So let's start with the Joker. He's going to be highly owned. Will he be highly owned for you?
Well, I initially was thinking yes, but I'm still a little bit skeptical on him. But yeah, I think in general, there's only so many options that are solid on this slate. So if you have enough value plays, like we're looking at some of these SK guys and cheaper plays, I think you can definitely play Jokic. Samsung makes you a little nervous because they are heating up and they're a lot better than they used to be. But I think that they didn't look great last night. I think that Jokic could have a really good game against them. Jokic is trending in the right direction. He's a guy that can definitely go deep into games. He doesn't tend to have quite as high a strikeout upside, but Samsung does strike out at over 18% rate. So and he is at home, which is a little more of a hitter's park. If he was playing at Samsung, they have that that was a little more of a pitcher's park at home for Kiwoom here compared to Samsung. If they were played there, that's a hitter's park. So I like Jokic. It's just a matter if the lineup construction can allow you to pay up for $30 on FanDuel or $9,500 on DraftKings. But yeah, I'll probably have some exposure to him. But it's hard to say he's my favorite guy at that price, but he's right up there.
Yeah, he's a little too expensive for me on FanDuel because of that lower strikeout upside that you referenced.
Yeah.
But on DraftKings, I'll have a lot of the Joker since we've got 2 pitchers. Lefties hitting 172 against him, righties 206. So I'm gonna stay away from those Samsung bats. Go with the Joker. And then on the flip side here, Beck is an interesting story because he started off really poorly, started to trend in the right direction with 3 of 4 quality starts, but then last time out against LG, he gave up 3 homers. I watched most of that game. They weren't terrible pitches. LG did, good job hitting. One of the home runs was the lefty Ji-Hwan Oh, the middle infielder for LG. It was a breaking ball that was up, but it wasn't one of those breaking balls that you just hang. It was, pretty tight breaking ball, and Oh just timed it perfectly. And the catcher turned on an inside fastball and just hit a line drive that got out. You mentioned the hitter's park in Samsung. So, he did. The final line that he had, I think, didn't really reflect the way that he pitched, but he's not an overpowering lefty. And that's why if he misses his spots, you can go deep on him. It's a straight fastball. And so I like these Kiwoom bats tonight. I'm hoping for some home runs. H. Kim has been really hot. Ha-Seong Kim, the $5,800 middle infielder on DraftKings. He's had several multi-hit games recently, so I'll have some exposure to him. And I like the Park brothers that we call them. Not that they're brothers, but B Park and D Park. Byung Ho is up to 15 homers. He's hit homers in 3 of his last 6. So I could see him going deep once or twice. And then Dongwon Park, he's been a little bit cold lately in terms of the power situation, but maybe he'll break out here. I'm not really thrilled about any of the catchers on this slate, so I may just spend up on Park in a few spots and hope that this is the game that he breaks out.
Yeah, I mean, these guys, Byung-Ho Park and Dongwon Park, are the ultimate, in my opinion, ultimate boom or bust. They don't hit. Their splits aren't really that great against left-handed pitchers. You would think they would be great against them. So they're not hitting for a good average. They're like in the 200s. But they are like the type of guys that are going to go 1 for 4 with like a 2-run homer, right? I mean, that's what you're looking for. So so they're definitely the boom or bust, and I guess that would make them a GPP play because they're either going to have almost nothing or probably that 1 home run, like I said, 1 for 4. And Ha-Seong Kim, I actually really liked him. He was off last night. He just was pinch hitting, and I liked him in the slate. But then when I looked at again his splits, he's like really good, like batting over 400 against righties. He was really bad against lefties, and he does have power. So he's another guy that's you just better hope that he gets that long ball. Kiwoom is an indoor stadium, but again, it's a pitcher's park. It's not a hitter's park, so you don't see quite as many home runs there. So I'm not as high on those guys just because, but you can definitely get some upside on them. They're boom or bust plays, in my opinion. And then Jung Ho Lee, I think it's still solid. He bats good against lefties. He just hasn't hit any home runs against lefties, but he's definitely the type of guy that can get a couple doubles and rack up a lot of RBIs and runs, batting in the middle of that order. Jung Ho Lee's, he's good against lefties and righties. He's just solid all the way around. So that's kind of where I'm at. But yeah, I definitely agree. There's upside to be had with Kiwoom here. It just makes you a little nervous when they bat in the 200s.
Right.
Lefties,
Yep. Definitely looking for the long ball there. So that'll be a fun thing to watch tonight. We want to thank everybody for listening. And if you like what you're hearing, as we dive into the KBO 6 nights a week, every night that they play, we're doing a podcast on it. So we hope you'll continue to listen. And if you want to take the next step and get access to our lineups and player pool, then go to dfscoachtalk.com, pick up one of our memberships. If you get one of the longer term, either monthly or annual memberships right now, the clock on that won't start until July 30th. So you end up getting some bonus time on your membership. It's a great time to join. Take advantage of all this research we're doing and have done every day that the KBO has been playing. And again, like I said, you get a full lineup on FanDuel that we give our members, and then a player pool on DraftKings that we craft every day based on the slate, based on all this research that you've heard today. So we invite you to jump in and join the family. We're having a lot of fun. So that's the story there. If you could, and you haven't already, then please do rate, review, subscribe, give us the thumbs up. On YouTube, make sure you click so you get the notification of when the podcast posts every day. And then check us out on social media. Shane runs the Instagram page, DFS_Coach Talk. You can find us on Twitter, of course, at DFS Coach Talk. Sugar Shane is on Twitter at DET Sports Shane. You can find me at Language Olympic. JoeSarvadi. Speaking of Coach, his favorite charity is mambaon3.org. We invite you to check that out, MAMBAONTHREE.org. What else, Shane? Did I hit the highlights there?
I mean, we're on fire with KBO, and I feel like we're one of the best teams in the entire industry for KBO analysis. And if you like our KBO analysis, you're going to be blown away when NBA and NFL starts, because Coach is really locked into the NBA, and he's one of the most knowledgeable in the entire industry. And Andrew and I are also very knowledgeable in NBA. And then to say that Andrew and I are locked in on NFL right now, even though it hasn't started yet, but in terms of the research and analysis we've had, to say that we're locked in on NFL would be a major, that would be an understatement right now. Okay.
You're going to be fired up, Shane.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Are you ready for some football? Let's go play
I'm
some
ready
football.
for some football. That's what I'm saying. So we are so locked in and so knowledgeable when it comes to this stuff. And if, like I'm saying, if you like what we can do in KBO, which is a difficult sport, you're going to be blown away when you see the NBA and the stuff we're going to do in NFL. It's going to be amazing. So jump on board and come join us.
Yeah, and that's the great thing about our membership. The one fee, you get access to the lineup in every sport, and we're going to give those lineups NBA, MLB, NFL every slate. So it's going to be terrific. We're excited. We'd love to have you join us, and we'll wrap it up here. Tomorrow, we'll be back with another KBO show. Coach and I will be on for that one, and so we hope you'll join us for that. And, man, it's fun. I'm fired up, Shane. So it's going to be great. We're having a great time. We'd love to have you join us. So thank you all for listening. On behalf of Sugar Shane Caldwell and the coach, Joe Sarvadi, I'm Andrew Hansen, and we look to see you again tomorrow on DFS Coach Talk when we look to crush it in DFS.